What is one of, if not the worst foods a diabetic can eat for heart health and our life expectancy? Have we been conned by the single biggest nutritional scandal of our lifetime? How did this food make its way into the mainstream diet, and is it the hidden cause for the explosion of diabetes around the world? This episode will undoubtedly shock and awe you. But before we begin, let me welcome all of you resilient diabetics out there. This is the channel we turn ordinary, struggling diabetics into, you know it already, extraordinary, well-controlled diabetics. If you don't know who I am and you are brand new to this channel, I welcome you. My name is Sampat, and I became an insulin-dependent diabetic a little over 6 years ago due to an autoimmune attack which caused the destruction of my pancreas as a result of a severe gluten allergy response. So basically, I am the proud owner of a pancreas that's gone on a permanent and lifelong vacation. So not only am I a diabetic, just like you, where we will be walking that walk and talking that talk together, but I do also have a University of Bachelor of Science degree in nutrition dietetics, and that does come in very handy in discussing all the intricacies of being a diabetic. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button followed by the gray notification bell. Then you have to choose turn on all notifications if you want to be notified when a new Resilient Diabetic video has been published. As with all my videos, this should not be considered personal medical advice. This is my interpretation of the latest research. If you want medical advice, please always consult your physician. We know that more than 1 in 3 here in the United States is now pre-diabetic. But what about the rest of the world? The European Journal of Clinical Nutrition has revealed some devastating numbers. The prevalence of diabetes has tripled in China and nearly doubled in India in less than 2 decades. China now leads the world in terms of the number of people with diabetes, with approximately 109 million adults. And India is second with approximately 70 million adults with diabetes. By 2040, the number of people with diabetes in China and India is projected to reach 150 million and 123 million respectively. It is also projected that the number of adults with diabetes in Pakistan will exceed that of the United States, and that will move into third place very, very soon. Type 2 diabetes is a global public health crisis and threatens the economies of all nations, particularly those in developing countries. And what are our experts still blaming? Well, they're blaming 3 things: rapid urbanization, nutritional transition, and increasingly sedentary lifestyles. The first question we need to ask ourselves is, what is the common link between all nations? What are the experts missing? If you've been following me and you are subscribed, and I know you are, then you already know one major factor: the excessive amounts of carbohydrates being consumed, both good and bad. Sugar is sugar no matter where it comes from, whether it's from 2 slices of whole grain breads, a large apple, or even that can of soda. It's all the same to a diabetic body. We have already discussed in detail how our livers convert all the extra carbohydrates we consume into triglycerides, and then stores these triglycerides or fats in places where it cannot be seen, in between all of our body organs, inside the liver, and deep within the muscle layers. This is the reason why many diabetics are not overweight or look obese in any way. Many are even slim. These unseen, extremely dangerous stored fats make the body both resistant to insulin, which then in turn makes the pancreas produce more and more insulin to try and bring down higher and higher blood sugar levels. So this continuous rise of insulin, also known as hyperinsulinemia then creates massive amounts of inflammation inside our bodies, rotting and killing all of our body cells from the inside out. And thanks to modern science, we now know that includes our brains too. Studies now indicate that inflammation due to excessive insulin is one of the root causes of diabetes. But what if there is a second source of inflammation? Something else that we are eating that is compounding the damage to the body besides carbohydrates. Experts have presented several dietary culprits as possible explanations for the rapidly rising rates of chronic diseases in the industrial nations. And what do they continually blame? The scapegoats, the refined sugars and the saturated fats. However, there is one commonly consumed food found in the diets of millions that has received surprisingly very little attention. And what is that, you may ask? Drum roll, please. Industrial seed oils. And what are seed oils? Brilliantly relabeled or commercialized as vegetable oils. These are the very cheap oils the world is now using to cook and deep fry all of their foods, especially in those emerging countries. These oils are high in pro-inflammatory omega-6 fats and very low in anti-inflammatory, highly protective omega-3 fats. Soybean oil, followed by corn oil, canola oil manufactured from rapeseed, and cottonseed oil make up 96% of the vegetable oil sold here in the United States. Repeatedly heated oils has also shown to increase the levels of oxidative stress in the body, including rising levels of oxidative LDL particles. It is not the cholesterol that is the issue, but the carriers of cholesterol that has become both oxidized and glycated. A glycated LDL means that they've become very small, heavy, and dense, capable of doing severe damage because they now have sugars attached to them due to the diabetes. These glycated and damaged LDL carriers are what is known to be causing heart disease, especially in us diabetics. So let's talk about the omega-3 to omega-6 ratio, because this is one of the links to everything. The new known advice is to increase omega-3s and decrease omega-6 consumption, but specifically the ratios found in modern foods is now the main problem. Our hunter-gatherer ancestors throughout mankind consumed omega-6 and omega-3 fats in a ratio of a 1-to-1. Estimates of the ratios in the standard American diet range from an average of 10-to-1 to, get this, 20-to-1. This ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fats in the body influences severe degrees of inflammation. In other words, a diet high in omega-6 acids will enrich our cellular membranes with arachidonic acid, which has a greater capacity for inflammation. And what is the main source of these omega-6 polyunsaturated fats in our countries and around the world? These dirt cheap vegetable oils. Looking back over the last 100 years, it is hard to understand how we could have been so gullible. We believe that fat, more specifically saturated fat, found in animal foods was thought to increase both cholesterol and heart disease. We have been instructed to switch from butter, lard, and ghee, the natural fats, to heart-healthy vegetable oils like cottonseed oil, safflower, and soy oils. But recent evidence suggests this was and is one of man's biggest mistakes. So where did this all begin? This all started with the invention of Crisco. While soap had historically been made from rendered pork fat, Procter & Gamble were innovative and decided to create a new type of soap from vegetable oils. Around the same time, oil was just discovered, so drilling had already begun in Pennsylvania, so it quickly displaced cottonseed oil, which was consigned to the status of toxic waste. Why toxic? Because if it was consumed by animals, it would produce sickness and death, and it was used to lubricate machinery. Procter & Gamble realized that all the unwanted cottonseed oil could be used to produce soap. So how did this toxic soup of waste that could kill animals and was to grease up machines end up in our kitchens? When they finally figured out the manufacturing process via a process called hydrogenation, they were able to produce this creamy, pearly white substance, which at the same time they also realized resembled lard. They then started and embarked on the country's most expensive marketing campaign the nation had ever seen, all clearly spearheaded by a top firm called the J. Walter Thompson Agency. Procter & Gamble called their new cooking oil Crisco, which they thought conjured up crispness, freshness, and cleanliness. Crisco was then skillfully marketed as a cheaper alternative to lard. In 1911, Procter & Gamble launched a brilliant campaign to put Crisco into every American household. They produced a recipe book, which included Crisco, of course, and they gave it away for free. This was unheard of at the time. Advertisements of that era also proclaimed Crisco was easier to digest, cheaper, and healthier due to its plant origins. And this is where the health scam went mainstream. In the late 1940s, there was a very small, unknown group of cardiologists who were members of the still somewhat very new American Heart Association. Have you heard of them? They received a $1.5 million donation from Procter & Gamble. I wonder what that is worth in today's times. Thanks to this generous infusion of cash, the American Heart Association now had sufficient funds to grow its national profile as physicians organized and dedicated to get this, to heart health. How ironic. Because they were paid by Procter & Gamble, they were quick to endorse industrial seed oils, more kindly referred to now as vegetable oils, as a healthier alternative to animal fats, ignoring and manipulating any and all studies from that point on. If you've seen my video on diabetic snacks, which I will put in the description box below, then you know this is nothing new. We have already covered the Journal of American Medical Association's complete and scathing exposure of our esteemed nutritional experts and thus our guidelines. This is how the food manufacturers, which the article directly mentions, like Nestle, General Mills, all bribing researchers and all the mainstream institutions and the organizations to continually blame saturated fats as the culprit for the world's health problems, when in reality, their own studies clearly show the link to carbohydrates. Now, whomever coined the term vegetable oils in the 1940s, in my opinion, deserves a medal. A brilliant manipulative move that easily influenced the world 10 times over. Who does not think vegetables are healthy? Soon after, new vegetable oils followed. Soybeans were introduced to the United States in the 1930s, and by the late 1950s, it had become the most popular vegetable oil in the country. Canola, corn, and safflower oils followed shortly after that. The low cost of these cooking oils, combined with the strategic marketing on the part of the oil manufacturers, made them wildly popular in American kitchens, even though they were void in use throughout man's history. Now, you and I, we don't eat Crisco by the tubload. But what about the modern cooking oils? How are they made? And more importantly, are they safe? Let me ask you this question. Do you think you can easily squeeze oil out of a soybean like you would, say, squeezing oil out of an olive? The general process used to create industrial seed oils is anything but natural. Most cooking oils go through an insane amount of processing. The oils extracted from soybeans, corn, cottonseed, safflower, and rapeseed must be refined, bleached, deodorized before they are suitable for human consumption. These seeds also have to be processed with petroleum-based solvents, such as hexane, to maximize the amounts of oils extracted from them. These industrial seed oil manufacturers also use chemicals to deodorize the oils, which, if you did not know, produce an extremely putrid smell once extracted. These sophisticated processes also produce trans fats, which are also known to be quite harmful to human health. Finally, more chemicals are added to the end process to improve color and flavor of these industrial seed oils. Now, compare this complicated and lengthy process to the natural process of making butter. Wait for the cream to separate from the milk, skim off the cream, and shake. If you did a Google search on vegetable oils, you would see the top spots are highly protected to encourage their use. Words like, it reduces cholesterol and LDL. But as you now know, cholesterol is not the problem. It is the LDL that is the issue. The LDL carrier changes depending on what you eat. If you want to learn more, and I highly suggest you do, first do a search on omega-6 to omega-3 ratios. Then I want you to do a search on LDL particle size, glycated or oxidized LDLs. This will not only send you in the right direction, but you will actually know more than most common doctors. And once armed with this knowledge, this can and will save your life. So let's face the facts. We as a society eat vegetable oils because they are cheap, not because they are healthy. And here is your first reality check. It is in everything you eat outside the house. Every packaged food will have these cheap oils in them. They are found in all processed foods. That includes salad dressings, margarine, mayonnaise, cookies, any packaged bakery. So in other words, anything that you eat that comes in a package will have some kind of seed or vegetable oil from keeping it from going bad. We've already talked about nuts. If you see vegetable oils on that package of the nuts you're consuming, immediately throw it in the trash. Even if you go out to eat at any of the restaurants and try and eat something healthy, guess what? All your food will be cooked in these very cheap oils. Your meats will be marinated and then recooked in these oils again. There is no escape. But what is more concerning, a highly toxic form of omega-6 vegetable oils, that is the repeated heating of these vegetable oils. This is common practice in the food industry, particularly in the large deep fryers, because it significantly reduces the cost of food preparation. Instead of having to refill their deep fryers with fresh oil every day, many restaurants and commercial producers just top off or add enough from the day before, only replacing the entire batch every few days or even several weeks. And this is what's happening in the emerging worlds. Everything they cook in uses these recycled, deep fried oils. So their diets consist of two things: these reused, highly oxidized, rancid vegetable oils and carbs together. This is a solid 1-2 toxic, deadly punch to our human bodies that they just cannot recover from. I will happily set up a playlist for you on the foods I eat and why. In the episode Diabetes and Protein, you will come to find out protein may be the single most important nutrient for a diabetic to consume for the greatest possible health outcome. What are the top 3 vegetables for diabetics to consume and why? What about breads? Are they to blame for the first known causes of type 2 diabetes found in the ancient world and for the recent explosion of diabetes in the modern world? And you'll even find a video on nuts in there. If you're on a desktop or laptop, I want you to use the mouse to click that upcoming box. If you're on your mobile device, tap that with your fingers. The first is the link to subscribe to this all-important channel. The second is the link to the playlist mentioned on foods. So, have a great and productive day, and we will see you soon with another new video, which I said are always generally released weekly. Bye for now.